Welcome to the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Manaz, and this podcast is for mums who want to carve out time so that you can work in ways that work for you, your life, your family, and of course your business. Together, we will discover why you are not prioritizing your business and the actions that you can take so you can live an intentional, productive, and fulfilled life without mum guilt. So let's dive in to today's episode.
So this is a guest episode and I have the lovely Dani Louise Smith. She's the queen of business organisation, a business mentor helping holistic and wellness businesses to make more money online. Alongside her business strategy and management skills, unlike other business mentors, she has faced more challenges than the average business owner, and her superpower is thriving through adversity and extraordinary circumstances. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have Dani Louise Smith with me today. She is the queen of organisation, and I am excited for this topic because there is just so much that we can do with in terms of planning and being super intentional with how we organise ourselves. And I cannot wait to hear some of Dani's lovely tips. So welcome. Dani, do say hello to the listeners. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. So I'm the Queen of Business Organisation, and I help business owners, particularly in service-based businesses, to make more money online through their business strategy, organisation, planning, and general business management. So that is from me organising my own business and businesses because I've run multiple, and I thrive through adversity basically and in extraordinary circumstances, which we'll get into a little bit. But I want to help other people to do that as well so that they can still work around a busy lifestyle.
Amazing. So important what you're doing, and the fact that you have been there yourself. I think that's always the key thing. So yeah, I can't wait to dig into everything that has actually helped you shape yourself to the point that you're at now. So tell me how you came across to doing this. Like, what was your journey like? Have you got a story there of something specifically that happened that made you think that you needed to be helping other people do the same thing?
Yeah, so basically it happened by accident, did this business. So did my first business, to be fair. So I have been in business for 10 years, but this business, I'm coming into my third year this month. And what happened was, after 6 years of running my first business, I just wasn't really making enough money to make ends meet, and the usual story. So I needed to do something about it, and I got my head down, got focused, and I literally did loads of research, learning, implemented it all, and I turned the business around very quickly. Within the space of 4 months, I went from inconsistent, barely any sales, to sold out and fully booked for Christmas because it fell at that time of year. And when I did that, people saw how much my business had changed, and I was running networking meetings at the time. I was actually running the business, and it was a product business, and working for the NHS part time, and then running networking events. So it took up loads of time. And I thought, you know what, I want to help people do this with their businesses. Then I'd finally got to a point of making consistent income. I wanted to help other people. However, when I then introduced this business, I realised very, very quickly that I need to be organised, because if it wasn't enough that I was then running two businesses, having a job and networking meetings, my husband was told that he was going to have his 13th surgery. So he's had 13 surgeries across his knees, but this has been the lucky one because it worked. So, well, it sort of works. There's other conditions going on there, but he has got 5 diagnosed health and disability in learning conditions. And then we were going through autism assessments with my son, which is where it all became quite challenging to manage work, business, being a mum, being a carer sometimes, and appointments, because we had appointments for both of them too, in particular, because we've got 3 children. So for my middle child and my husband, there was loads of appointments. So I didn't know whether I was coming or going, and I needed to do something about it. So that's where I decided, right, I need to sort myself out, I need to get organised. And it was how I evolved into being the queen of organisation, because after a while, people saw how much I'd turned it around, especially my first mentor that I invested in, and the container we were in, is we were in a mastermind, and everyone kept saying, Dani's the organised one, Dani's the queen of organisation. And it was becoming a recurring theme until, even as I was mentoring, I started out in the creative space, creative coaching, but it evolved as I realised that this was my superpower. But not only was it the organisation and business management, but that I did it in a way that helped people who were going through adversity, such as like having, challenges with disabilities and wanting to work, but it wasn't the circumstances that would benefit them as a household. And the fact that I then turned that around and got my business to a place of earning sustainable income, I wanted to help other people with that. So I kind of have a tagline now, which is I always say two things: thriving through adversity and surviving in extraordinary circumstances, because our circumstances are extraordinary. Like I always say, it's not a normal situation to have, like my husband had, 2 operations every year, which was like surgery, recovery, physio, and then again surgery, physio, recovery. All the way around like that. And then obviously with my son, and literally he doesn't go into school. It's a fight to get him into school. Consistent exclusions, things like that, meetings because of his behaviour in school, because of his neurodiversity and learning disability that's not being diagnosed, but my husband's got the same one, so I believe it's the same. So yeah, fighting for my child. And then on top of that, you've got the normal mum stuff, the normal, day to day that we have as a parent, as a business owner, because my other two children are, misbehave like kids do. And yeah, things happen. So, it's been quite a challenge, and that's been my journey. But I've finally got to a place where I'm happy, managing time really well, and my business is succeeding. And it was when I was running it before my old business. I've now closed that so that I can fully focus on this because I'm so passionate about it. But yeah, that's what kind of got me on this journey to help these people in particular to basically work from home around such a busy, extraordinary lifestyle that's not the same as like maybe Susan next door. She might have it quite calm, 2 children, and they do the daily day routine, the 9 to 5 job. Whereas when we face things like this, it's a bit different. So I want to help people in similar circumstances, and that's what brought me to do this.
That's amazing, Dani. I love how you mentioned like the normal and also in adversity, because sometimes I think it can play on us in both ways, that sometimes what we are dealing with feels like that's normal because that's the only thing we've ever known, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, it takes us a lot of time to realize that what we have been through, what we have gone through, like, really, we've gone to the depths of our core to actually even just stay above some kind of normal level of calm and mindset, and trying to keep things together in our family. And we don't even realize that this is not normal for others, and therefore there is that kind of realizing that what you have done is actually quite difficult circumstances you've dealt with, quite unusual, not typical and not common. And
Yes.
realizing that is actually, there must be like a key strength in there somewhere for your own resilience, that why you're able to get through all of this. So I love how you've using that to say, well, this is actually, I'm standing in my ground to say that, well, this is not normal, and this is like, actually, I have had to deal with way more than a lot of people have to. And being able to share that and say, because it is really hard to own that and say, there's a lot of things that you've just shared. So yeah, thank you so much for your honesty. I think everybody loves to hear real stories, and the fact that
Yes.
you have got a child and a husband who unfortunately has had so much need from you, having to be a carer at times and having to manage a lot of things that you would not normally necessarily have to do on top of being a business owner and being a mum and all the things. So tell me then, through those tough times, there must have been times like when you felt that, like I talk about a tug of war feeling, you know, between like your business is like your passion and you really, really want to do this thing. You want to spend your time on it because you love your business, right? You love your clients, you love the work that you do, except because life happens and other things are also a priority for you. And it's not to say that you want to give them lesser priority in any way, but you know, there are always times where those things will keep shifting and there will be more of a need and desire for you to be the mum or the wife or whoever you need to be for those moments. And how have you dealt with that in your past where you felt like, right, I'm on track now, this is it, I know what I'm doing now, and then something else happens? You know, we just share something that you can. You're already laughing, so I'm thinking there's a story there.
Yeah, because I think when you come out the other side of it, you just think, oh, but actually I dealt with it. And I think sometimes we can't see ourselves dealing with it, but it's still quite a fresh one. It was September my daughter started full-time school, and my son had actually been doing really, really well until just before summer. It's usually the big change in routine for him that triggers a lot of anxiety because of going back to school and he's at home for so long, and it's just he thrives in routine. I do, to be fair, I do as well.
Yeah.
So when he did go back in September, he got excluded like 3 times within 3 weeks, which was very uncommon because usually it only had been once at that point. We couldn't get him into school. It was a fight every morning, and going from being mum dealing with a child that's refusing to go into school that you're getting the phone calls for as soon as you've got home. We live 5 minutes away, and we'd get calls straight away. And then having to put my business hat on and be the queen of, it's kind of I have to put on a show, and then I need to become the queen of business organisation because I'm not mum anymore. And that was the tug of war moment for me because I felt, no, I need to have these boundaries and go do my work now because I need to bring income in for our family. But then while I was doing that, I felt the mum guilt because I've kind of ignored what's just happened of getting him into school and him not liking it, was worried about him. And that separation become quite a challenge from going one thing to the other. So wherever I was, where I felt like I wasn't doing the right thing because I was there helping him when I needed to be getting home and getting started on work, or I was doing the other thing, I was going home and getting started on work, and I felt like I needed to be there with him. So it was kind of very, very challenging to kind of be in that place. But then I realised actually I can do it all. I can manage it. I just have to look at the situation with a different perspective, kind of analyse it and what changes I can put in place to basically manage the situation. And I'm happy to share what I did to help because I know other parents have actually got a client who struggles with a similar thing, but her child's a lot older. So it is harder the older they get. The child becomes bigger than us. So it does get harder, but she's faced a similar scenario. And for me, and it's not always something you can do, but what I could do was separate it a little bit. So I wasn't coming home and going straight into work. I had that time to just kind of calm my anxious energy down and just have that space. And it usually involves coffee for me, and then have that time and then start work. So me and my husband have actually changed our routine up. So the kids go back to school on Monday after Christmas, and the one thing we're going to do is we're going to, once the kids are in school, we're going to grab the dog and just go for a walk for half an hour. Usually I'd be like, well, I need to get to work, but I've got a VA now, which makes it a little bit easier. But even so, without her, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go for a walk, just allow myself to switch between the two roles and have that time. Because I had this conversation with a friend and she's gone through something similar where she's just focused on the work stuff, but actually because she's so stressed about getting things done, she's not giving herself that break that she needs. And I said to her, actually, what we don't realise is when we are not in business and when we have a 9 to 5, so to speak, it's not typical hours, is it now? But when I worked, like I'd have a bus ride to work, and on that bus ride, I was answering messages as in my own mind. There was no distraction. Sometimes I'd read a book, and it was quite. I find bus rides quite therapeutic now. I just stare out the window and watch the world go by, and I do like it. And I know that some people, when they're driving to work, that's quite a meditative state because they're just focused on the road, and there's nothing else in your mind, or it just allows those passing thoughts. And that when we are going to work or the day job, we have that time to separate from just having taken the kids, done the school run, and then we're on the way to work, and then we start and we put that hot hat on. And I feel like as business owners, we don't separate ourselves like we get to. So I think putting something else in place like that has really massively helped me, and hopefully will help many other women as well when they're juggling both. And I think it's just a boundary I've had to set with myself to actually put my self-care first. As soon as I've done one, as soon as I've been a mum, right, okay, I need to look after myself now, go for a walk, have the coffee, then I can be queen of business organisation and help my clients, because I've got to be in the right mindset and place to do that. So that's helped massively. And it's just, I smiled and laughed because I was struggling with it so much in September, but it's such a simple thing that I have put in place that now works. And I mean, some days are harder than others, but I'm getting more resilient and stronger in coming into starting my works situation and getting into the routine without that impacting my mind, because I know he's safe in school, and if we have to go pick him up because he's been sent home, they can ring my husband, it's fine, and we'll just deal with it. So I'm kind of in that mindset now, whereas before I wasn't. So I think it does take continuous mindset work, looking at what you can adjust and just implementing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And your circumstances are so unique that, nobody can say, oh, Dani, do this, or for someone else to say, oh, well, Dani does this, so do this. So we really have to take that ownership and say, right, well, I'm going to try something. I'm going to just give myself that permission that I can try it and just be open to it, because sometimes we don't understand. Like you said, some of those things will be really simple. But I love how you mentioned about the kind of drive to work typically, that is so like, it's so obvious that when you work in the corporate world, i.e., in an office space, you naturally have a drive to work. And for me, I worked for years in the corporate world, and the same thing, my drive was like my kind of therapy session,
Yeah.
both going to work and secondly coming back home on my way to
Yes.
pick up kids from the school run, because getting to the school gates on time, you're not sure quite if you're going to make it on time, if your child's going to take like ages to come out and be the last one out of school, or you just don't know what you're preparing yourself for. And just having that little moment where it's almost like having a transition phase and just giving yourself space, because as we know, when we give ourselves space, that's when we sort of reset ourselves and we are able to then be far more helpful, productive, and efficient at whatever we're doing next. But in order for us to do that, we have to allow ourselves to have this kind of little filler, whether that's a 5 minute or 10 minute walk or a half an hour, you get to choose. And just making that a priority. So I love how, you do that after school and you go out for a walk and it's like, this is happening and I'm doing it, because you're far, far better for it when you start work in the right mindset. And you're right, I think ultimately you are feeding your brain in the sense of, bringing that calm to your world. So that sounds amazing, and it just goes to show that those small things that we think, oh well, it's not going to make a difference, right? We could stop listening to those voices, and you know what, just give it a go, because sometimes it is the most powerful things can be very simple things. Let's face it, you don't want more complication in your life anyway. Right? Um, so tell me, Dani, then, what do you think has helped you the most in terms of managing everything that you have on your plate and not getting distracted? Because, now you've kind of I've shifted into work mode, right? I've done my walk, I'm reset, but now you're working. And now it's like the biggest thing that happens to mums is that there'll be this thought or this email, or there's these things that will appear, and it can just take us off target, off where we were trying to go.
Yeah.
And obviously you're very, very organized, so what can you share in terms of distractions? What's coming to you there?
So my biggest thing happens before I actually start work, and it's the preparation. I always say preparation is key, and I always say the cliche quotes. I always use them, and I do believe planning and preparation are key. Like, failure to plan is planning to fail is like one of my favourite quotes, because I do believe that. And I feel like a lot of people can wing it. I used to be a wing it Wendy myself in business and in life, and I'm not now. And it's served me well to not wing it anymore. So my preparation starts on a morning. So I know this is not suitable for everyone, so I wouldn't advise it to everyone, because I have been in a position where my child never slept, so I couldn't get up early on a morning. But what I do now, because it suits me, is I get up and I've actually just started exercising first thing. So I do like 30 minutes. Feels amazing because, one, I'm warm because I've just don't need the heating on then. And my house is quite warm anyway, but I'm warm because I've just exercised. And then I have a drink of water and a coffee. And I sit and do some journaling so my mindset's in the right place. But the last thing I do when I've done my journaling is I write an intentions list for the day. So I might have my calendar or my diary planned already, but sometimes you might have an hour spare. So I think, right, okay, what am I going to do with this hour? Or I might look at things, check in with everybody that's supposed to be in, I'm seeing in terms of clients or podcast recordings, whatever it is that day, and I look at what's going on and I check in. In fact, I did it with you this morning. I couldn't find the link, so I sent a message to say, yes, we're still going ahead, and, checking it's still happening, because you just never know when life curves balls, throw in a distraction. So I just check in advance so that anyone who is ill has got the chance to shout out and say, sorry, I can't do today, so I can send them it and let them know they can rearrange and so on. So I do that. I write my intentions list, check in with everybody for the day ahead so that I know where I'm spending my time for the day. So that when I have done the school run, I have had my walk, I have had my coffee, I then can just sit at my desk and I can just get things done. I know where I'm meant to be, everything's just in its place, makes it so much easier. It's kind of like, in my mind, it's like having a filing cabinet, but for your workload. So you can just go, right, yep, that's the file I want, that Zoom link or that session or that client, so I can just go straight and do the thing. So I do that. I set my intentions first thing, which is the preparation before I even start work, which makes a massive difference for me in making sure that I can just stay on top of things throughout my day.
Yeah, and you don't get lost on the way. No, I love
No.
that. I love that quote as well. That's one of my favourites too. And really, when we do fail to plan, we are planning to fail. And, all that work that we can put up front, it just helps us go a bit faster when we
Yeah.
are finally on. So yeah, totally agree with that. So I know that boundaries have been really important to you, Dani. Like, there's no way like you could have dealt with everything that you have with your family, with business, with changing businesses, with pivoting, all the things that have been coming your way. What I would love to know is, how do you kind of perceive how your boundaries need to be for complicated clients, or let's just say family members too? Because quite often it can be people who are very, very close to us who, we will find the most challenging in terms of setting, creating, communicating, whatever it is around the boundaries. So what can you share with listeners, and how you deal with that?
So there's a key word there that you've said that makes a massive impact: communication. Absolutely. And it took me a while to realise that, because I've done this business for 3 years, but as it's grown and succeeded, I've dealt with more clients, managed them in different areas, different like group settings and stuff. And then, especially when life threw its curveballs, I need to kind of be open to with them with what's happening, but I needed to be a leader in that. And so that's really shown its head in the past year for me, especially as my husband had surgeries and had to change things like appointments and sessions and stuff. So communication is key, and I would recommend that, again, preparation as well, so everybody knows what's happening, everybody's on the same page, but just really communicating with people and setting those boundaries in place in the beginning, because I've had clients that were kind of, I'm the facilitator, I'm the business mentor, but then it was like they were running the show, and that's not what's supposed to happen. So it was kind of like, I've had a client in the past who, it was a group setting, but she pretty much stole the show. And when I was trying to rearrange things, rather than me telling them when things would happen, it was one person dictating things. And that is not great, because it might suit her, but not me, but also not the other people in that situation. So it's just thinking about the fairest way to do it. So basically get clear on that for yourself, but then implement that, and effectively with communication and taking that leadership position. And leadership's something massively that I've worked on over the past year, because I don't think, I kind of always have stepped into leadership positions, and not realised it in like, you know, previous employed jobs that I've had. Because I used to run poker tournaments where I dealt with men in particular. I think there was one woman and my mum, she used to do it too. And other than that, it was like 22 testosterone filled men, quite between ages of 18 to 50. So it was fun. It was definitely fun. And I kind of took that leadership role without realising, had to do a bit of organisation without realising. So it has played an impact over the years in different employment roles that I've had, where I have had to step up and not realise that I was doing it. So that's definitely one thing with clients and complications, and also that it's okay to say no, and we don't have to people please everybody, because I think if we put ourselves and our own feelings first, then we can serve them better. And that's been a massive learning curve for me about saying no, because I am a people pleaser. And I always have been, but I am a lot better with it. So that'd be the first thing. And then with family, now I've been on quite a journey with family, and I used to be in the mindset of blaming them for not understanding what I do, my business, taking it seriously. And the situation was that and they still do, but it's in a different light now, where they would, because we're both at home through the day, me and my husband, they would just turn up and expect a coffee and a conversation, or, you know, to go to the Asda for just a coffee and a chat in a cafe or a shop or whatever. And now that doesn't happen because we've put that boundary in place. Like, my husband's really done it, got it to a T. Like, she's working, so I can, but I've got to be back at this time for the school run or whatever that situation is. I mean, I do the school runs anyway now. Depends on how much is on my plate, but we've got that communication and boundary set now. But it has been a challenge, and it does take repetition for people to understand. So now people do show up, but they understand that I'm not going to come away from what I'm doing because I'm working, and they understand that, and they're more accepting of that. And at the time, I used to blame other people, but actually I see now I needed to communicate with them. This is my job. This is how I earn money. And it has taken time, but now I'm in a position where I felt before I was being judged, whereas now I have family members make positive comments about what I'm doing, and that they love that I'm doing what I love and that I'm earning from it as well, which is nice to see. My mum doesn't understand the thing that I do, and she just says, I'm proud and you're doing well, but it's do you know what I mean?
Oh,
But it's nice, and there is more boundaries. In fact, now my mum listens to things like this. She's proud that I've mentioned her. She gets all giddy and excited, like I'm some celebrity, bless her, which makes me laugh. But it has changed. It has evolved over time, and that all began with my own mindset, my own communication, the own boundaries that I was putting in place because I was too afraid to speak up. And when I did start to, it just magically fell into place.
yeah.
And just having my own voice and saying that that power of communication has been effective in both those circumstances with clients or the difficult conversations with family members as well. And I feel like the more we repeat it and we are resilient with it and step into our power with it and like, this is what I'm doing, then the more people get used to it and accepting of it. And just because they don't understand, it's not their fault either.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Dani. I think, us taking that responsibility, that it's up to us to help them to see and understand. And we don't have to explain it to the nth degree, but it is our responsibility to share that with them. And often when we look back and question ourselves, we've maybe not explained it to them the way they need to hear it. And I think
Yeah.
there's something in that because, they're not business owners. Most of the time, if it's your family members, even your clients, well, it depends who you work with, but you may not be working with business owners, and they may not understand. We have to be the leader in that respect. And I think the word that popped out when you were talking about boundaries being fair, like, that's
Yeah.
it. It's about being fair. It's about being fair to ourselves, and it's also about being fair to the other people in our life. Because, the more they understand and the more we create and uphold these, we're actually making it easier for them to get that, because it never makes sense, does it? Especially when we have like really young children where we're just not in, we're very inconsistent. So when they ask for a chocolate biscuit, sometimes we say yes, sometimes they can have a whole packet, sometimes they can only have half, and sometimes they're not allowed to have it. Like, how does anyone have a chance to understand where you're even coming from if we just
Yeah.
keep stopping? And I think that's the trap we fall into with boundaries, is that we just feel like, oh no, but they're not going to like it, so I'll do it this time, and I won't say no here, and I won't do that. But you just end up like it's not worth it, because ultimately it's our mindset definitely gets hit with this. And I love that, how you've explained about it's our job to do that, to share it with people and to help them to understand. And it can be from our children being very little people who don't understand. There's still a level of capacity of understanding that we can help them to understand over time. And as they get older, they see mum working, and your mum sees you, even though she doesn't know exactly what you do. That's powerful. Like, she's actually loving what you're doing. How amazing is that? To go from people not understanding to at least appreciating that what you're doing is important, and it's important for you. And you know what? That's good enough.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So would you like to share 3 tips that, because you are all about planning productively and being super organized. So how could you share 3 tips where people are maybe struggling a little bit in terms of how they can do this better? And especially now this podcast will be going out in 2024. I'm sure people are looking at new ways of, like, I want to do this in a better way and improve it. So what would you share with them?
So first thing I'd say is power of routine. So like I said, preparation is key. Look at how a routine can be put in place to work for you. And I say that because nobody's lives are the same. I'm proof of that. Everybody has very different lives, very different things that we have to commit to. So I'd look at your life and how you can fit things into your time, and power of routine of, like, maybe it's a morning routine, evening routine. We all work better at different times, but wherever you can fit routines in that's going to serve you well, whether that's for your mindset, for your business, for your health. So there's 3 key areas I'm working on at the minute, and it's wealth, health, and happiness, because I do believe it's a triangle of success. So I look at, and I journal on this as well, what can I do each day for my wealth? So obviously for my business to grow. What can I do each day for my health? So things that are going to give me more energy, or exercise, whatever that is, whether it's diet or exercise. And then my happiness is, like, I always want to make sure I'm doing something every day that I enjoy. I love my work, I do, but outside of business, I want to do something that that fills my cup up, that makes me happy, whether that's something like a face mask and self-care, more journaling, reading, watching TV, whatever that is, because I think sometimes we get into the hustle and bustle of life and we forget that. So that's the first thing I'd say, is look at power of routine. The second thing is, when you are planning, I think a lot of generic advice out there is to time block, but what I realised last year in particular was time blocking doesn't work for everyone. Now, I am time blocking myself again because I've kind of had a break from it, but now I'm ready to get back to it. So what I did when it wasn't working for me is I did it in a different way. So we don't have to do every hour is a scheduled task. What we can do instead is we can dedicate something to a day. I think this works a lot better for those who are in employment and have a job alongside what they're doing. For me, I'm just doing this, but I only want to work 4 days a week, so I have to really think about how I'm spending the time. So I would say have particular focuses. So my client sessions are time blocked in, but then I have a specific focus that Mondays are my content days. So I only have one client session, and then the rest of the day is I go live on my social media and I do my content. It's all about content that day because that is a priority in my business. So I focus on that for the whole day in whichever way that looks like, whether it's a podcast, a blog, writing emails, social media content, whatever it is, I do that in that day. And then I look at where else I can time block things for a day. So Tuesdays more like my admin days, and then I've got clients Thursdays and Fridays. So, like, whatever that looks like for you in terms of planning, whether it is hourly time blocking or time blocking things as tasks for a day, whichever suits you, I'd recommend that as well. And then the final thing is a bit of automation makes a difference. It goes a long way in your business because it saves you so much time. So when I say that, the most commonly known one is like scheduling your content, and we can schedule so much now. Between your emails can be scheduled, your content on social media, your podcast sessions can be scheduled, blogs you can schedule them to go live, all sorts of different content that you can schedule. So definitely use that, but also look at how else you can automate things in your business. I love automation. I just keep applying more and more things, and it saves me time. And I do it with like batch creation, but also things like, depending on where you're at in your business, but have email sequences that are set up, or automations on my website that when people take certain actions, certain things happen, which means I don't have to do it. Like, for example, if a client signs up to work with me, I need them to sign the contract. So rather than them waiting around for me to get back to them because I'm with other clients, they get automated email, they've got the contract, they can download it, sign it, and send it off. And just making it so streamlined and a good customer journey as well, because they see the benefit, not just you. And also automating things like, if you're ready to outsource, how can you make that work for you as well? So this is something that's very new for me, but I'm loving it. So I've got systems set up so that my VA can just log in, get access to what she needs to, and do her thing while I'm off elsewhere. I mean, there's no better feeling than logging onto my own podcast and seeing that she's I did this morning. She's scheduled them for the whole January, and it's amazing to see all. She highlights it green when it's done, to see everything turn green, know that it's done, and that I don't have to do it. It just feels good. So think about how you can free up time and what you can automate in your business as well. Helps you stay productive and stay on top of things, which I think is really important.
Wonderful, Dani. Those are amazing tips. Thank you so much for sharing. I think they will be really helpful, and I think you've touched on some key areas. I love the slant on time blocking as well, because I like that myself. And when I feel like I get into a rut, I think that helps me to get that focus, and having like that themed day almost of like, what is the theme and what is the thing I need to focus on, is really helpful. And yeah, like the last one that you mentioned with automation, there's always like multiple ways of doing things, and it's what works for you and what would be helpful and what would actually make a difference. So I love that it's an exciting journey for you if you've got VA, and it should be exciting, right? It shouldn't be stressful of like you're having to give somebody work. It's a really exciting stage. So I can see that you're really excited about that as well. And the fact that, things get done, well, that is another way of, delegating your work. So fantastic. I loved all of those. So last but not least, Dani, I have my regular question of, what does building your business with boundaries mean to you?
It means protecting yourself and realizing that you're important as well as your clients, because I think it's easy to just be like, I want to make money, so I'm going to put my offer out there and then I'm just going to say yes to everything. Don't say yes to everything, because it doesn't serve you. So build your business with boundaries in the way that works for you, like when you want to be working. I think it's a big one. Things you do want to do, not just doing it because everybody else is doing it. Definitely think about the things that you say yes to. So that's really important.
Fantastic. I've loved this conversation, Dani. It's been so good, and I would love for you to share with the listeners, where can they find you, and if you have something that you want to offer them, I can pop the links in. So please do let us know what that is.
Yeah, so I'm at social media. You can find me at Queen of Business Organisation. And I also have a Facebook group where I go live every week, twice a week. You get more in there than anywhere else. So twice a week I go live, you get tips, things like questions, good conversation, and it's called the Business Growth Club. I also have a podcast under the exact same name, Business Growth Club, because it's all about growth through organisation and things that I talk about. And I've got a free toolkit. So if you do feel like you want to get your business more organised, then I do have an organised business toolkit. Basically, it shows you loads of different little tricks and tips that you can do. It's got videos and it's got templates that you can use and take for your business to get a lot more organised, because there's quite a few areas covered. And you can get that at queenofbusinessorganisation.co.uk/toolkit. So definitely get your hands on that for free.
Fantastic, Dani. I will pop all the links into the podcast description and the YouTube description as well. So do check them out. Check out Dani's toolkit, and you can join her Facebook group as well for more regular viewings of Dani and her wisdom as well. So thank you so much, Dani. This has been a fantastic episode. Thank you for being here.